So you've been hunting public your whole life, Dan. I didn't grow up hunting public. Like we hunted a little, here and there, but not hard like I do now. Um, how much easier was it back 20 years ago to hunt on public land than it is today? Like, is it easier, or is that just something that has it always been tough?
Well, 20 years ago it was easier.
Okay.
40 years ago it wasn't.
Hmm.
People that are complaining about pressure now should have seen it 40 years ago.
Really?
So I've been alive long enough to see the trends. Now, when I came into hunting, everybody hunted. Everybody. And they were spread out everywhere. I mean, public land was crowded like crazy, especially gun season. Gun season, there's just orange people everywhere. And really, when I was young, I mean, they killed most deer before they, ever shed an antler. I mean, finding a shed was something really, really rare. And after gun season, there wasn't much for bucks left. So you're hunting 1.5-year-old bucks. And if you wanted to get something special, a 2-year-old would be something special where you got a nice 8-point or maybe a 9 or a 10 that's smaller, but it's a 2-year-old, and as we got into like the 80s, bucks started growing and getting older and stuff. And we got our population up a little bit. And when I started learning the bedding, nobody else hunted like that. Everybody was trained to stay away from bedding. So those bedding areas were pristine. Nobody went in them. Nobody understood how points worked, how transitions worked, how, any of that worked. So as I started figuring that stuff out, I was in a gold mine, and everyone you'd go to, you'd have deer come in. And, well, not everyone, because there wasn't as many deer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, populations were low. But as we got into like the early 2000s, the end of the 90s, the population was starting to skyrocket. And mature bucks came along with that higher population, and there was bucks all over the place, and people were doing well. But what happened in that time frame was in the 90s, the explosion of deer farming.
Yeah.
The Drurys, the Kiskies, you know what I mean? All those people were right in your face on TV, like we've never seen before. Now, a lot of people grew up in that thing, so they don't realize that was all of a sudden. But to people like me, it was kind of all of a sudden that stuff was in your face.
That probably came along with like cable TV, right? Like the Outdoor Channel came and.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because TV was all you had, and DVDs at the time. DVDs started coming out, but everybody was taking the farm deer approach. Food plots, private land, the public land is crowded, and everybody wanted private land. And the public land just started draining of people. And what you saw on public land is you still saw hunters, but you saw hunters who were not very good. They didn't know what they're doing. They're beginner level. You'd go out in the woods and you'd see guys in the middle of the woods. You go out there during gun season, and the whole open forest would be a guy in orange every 40 or 50 yards claiming an area. And it's like, how would a deer get to the guy in the middle? I mean, if you had any common sense, you'd look at that and go, how could you ever think you're going to kill a deer when it's got to go past 50 people to get to you? These people must think that they just jump up out of the leaves or something, So we had stupider people, the kind of people who would just, and I don't mean that stupid. I just mean
I know what you mean.
Never learned the tactics, right?
Yeah.
So you'd see them. They would, if ever any place you saw a rub or something, there'd be a standover, and you kind of still see that.
Yeah.
A stand. Well, now whenever I see a giant rub, first thing I do is my head flicks around. I look at the camera that's filming me. As soon as I see it. But we went from that to now. Thanks to the education in public land hunting, we're seeing a much smarter group of people that are preferring the public land and the freedom of not having all the rules of private, having to deal with the landowners and stuff. And that might sound weird, but I don't know. Every property I've ever been on that's private, there's always some sort of stupid rules or stupid something's always sticking me in the
butt. Yeah, there's always a butt.
Exactly. Or if you hunt like I do and you only want to go in there once or twice a year, they're going to give it to somebody else because you don't utilize it. Where I'm utilizing it really well, but I don't want to overhunt it,
Right.
I mean, it's always got some sort of baggage. So some people like the freedom of public land and being able to hunt a new spot every day. It's a lot easier to hunt mobile. And like I said, I mean, if you're hunting private, if you're hunting that all the time, you're overhunting it. two guys can do more pressure to an 80 acres than 100 guys can do on 1,000 acres of public, because you can always get those. You can just keep moving. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So people are starting to understand that. And there was always the misconception that there aren't big bucks on public land, and there's more today than there was, 30 years ago. I don't know about 20 years ago, because 20 years ago we, is when they hit us with the CWD and just wiped out the population. Right around the early 2000s around here, we really had it good. I mean, some of these public lands were better than high dollar leases.
Yeah.
But that's changed, because of the CWD thing, when they killed the numbers so bad. We're starting to get them back, but they're doing all kinds of, in my area, my personal area, we're starting to get them back, but they're doing everything they can to stop it. I mean, they're handing out doe tags and making doe seasons to get those numbers down. But there's still, I mean, the public land is full of big bucks, and it's almost comical to listen to these people complain when they don't even know what they're complaining about, saying guys like me have ruined the public land. I'm hunting public land. It ain't ruined. There's big bucks all over the public land, and I'm hunting very pressured stuff, and I'm finding niches to kill them. Like you said, I mean, that buck's got to be in my top 3 or 4 bucks.
Yeah.
All time, and I hunted right down under the noses of all these people around here,
especially with a bow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the one you killed 2 years ago was probably up there too, right? I mean, that was a big deer.
Yep. Amongst all the pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something like because I mean, even you, Dan, you probably get frustrated sometimes whenever you pull to a parking lot and you're like, gosh darn it, I don't want to deal with this today.
It ain't so much the parking lots. It's when you get out there and there's just cameras everywhere.
Yeah. 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 But it's a good reminder to be like, man, there's probably one hiding in here somewhere. You just got to be persistent and keep after it and find them.
You know what the good part of those cameras is that it tells you how other people are thinking. If there's cameras in spots, people are looking at that spot. The deer are someplace else. So you just keep moving to the deer, till you find them.